The Galactic Council chamber was silent. Thousands of alien leaders sat inside a massive circular hall that floated high above the shining planet of Varela Prime. The air was tense, heavy with fear and pride. Every race in the galaxy had gathered there to decide one thing: the fate of Earth. At the center, a glowing blue hologram of the human planet spun slowly, surrounded by countless eyes filled with anger and suspicion. The Supreme Chancellor, a tall creature with crystal skin and burning red eyes, raised his clawed hand and said, "The time for debate is over. The humans have refused to stop their weapon research. They have expanded their fleets beyond treaty limits. They are a threat to the peace of the galaxy. I, Chancellor Vale of the Council, officially declare war on Earth." The words echoed through the chamber like thunder. Some cheered. Others stayed silent. But all of them felt the same strange unease deep inside their minds. For years, the Council had feared the humans. They were new to the stars, yet they learned faster than any species before them. In only 100 years, Earth had gone from broken colonies to a rising power. They had fought pirates, pushed back invasions, and built ships that no one had seen before. Many believed humanity was dangerous, unpredictable, and proud. Now, they would be tested. At the edge of the chamber, a lone human stood tall, calm, and silent. His name was Admiral Kale Rian, Earth's ambassador to the Council. He wore a simple black uniform, his silver eyes watching the chaos unfold. As the chamber filled with angry shouts and flashing lights, Kale didn't move. He just waited. Finally, the Chancellor turned toward him. "Admiral Rian," Vale said coldly, "do you have anything to say before we begin this war?" The room went quiet. Even the air seemed to freeze. Everyone expected the human to beg for peace or threaten destruction. But Kale only smiled, slow, confident, almost relieved. "I do have something to say," he said softly, his voice carrying through the hall. "You say this war begins now. But you are wrong." He stepped closer to the center, his boots echoing against the marble floor. "This war began the day you decided humans were beneath you. The day you thought fear could control us. You believe you're declaring war on Earth today." He paused, and that same small smile deepened. "But Earth has been waiting for this moment for a very long time." The aliens looked at each other in confusion and disbelief. Whispers filled the room. Some thought the human was bluffing. Others felt a chill crawl down their spines. Kale gave a small nod, turned, and began walking out of the chamber. "You may have the numbers," he said over his shoulder, "but you'll soon learn, humans don't fight fair." The great doors closed behind him with a deep metallic sound that echoed for seconds. The council members turned toward the Chancellor, who stared at the empty doorway. His face was hard, but his hands trembled slightly. Something about the human's calmness didn't feel right. Later that day, the Council's War Command sent orders to all member fleets. Thousands of ships were to move toward Sol System, the home of Earth. The galaxy believed it would be an easy victory. Earth was small compared to the vast Council armada. "The humans will surrender quickly," said General Zyrith of the Draven Empire. "They are clever but weak." Yet as fleets began to move, strange reports started coming in. Scout drones vanished near human borders. Communication probes were destroyed by unknown interference. A few ships that entered the edge of the solar system never returned. Most thought it was just human defense fire. But one surviving scout transmitted a final message before its signal went dark. "Something is moving near Earth's moon, something big." Inside Earth Command, Admiral Kale Rian stood before a vast screen showing the entire galaxy. Around him, silent officers watched as red dots representing enemy fleets filled the map. He gave one order in a calm, steady voice. "Activate code Iron Dawn." Deep under the oceans, in mountains, and inside forgotten bunkers, something old began to awaken. Giant steel doors slid open. Systems powered up after centuries of silence. Hidden satellites blinked to life above the clouds. The Earth itself seemed to hum with energy. "All vaults online," a voice said behind Kale. Weapons and fleet status, ready for launch in 72 hours. Kale looked out at the night sky through the glass window of the command tower. The stars glittered above, bright and cold. Somewhere out there, the entire galaxy was preparing to destroy his home. But his face showed no fear. Only certainty. "They think we're not ready," he whispered. "They think we're afraid. But they have no idea what we've been building." The comm officer turned toward him. "Sir, message to the council?" Kale shook his head slowly. "No message," he said. "Let them come." As the officer nodded, Kale's eyes hardened. Far beneath the earth, a deep metallic rumble echoed like the growl of a sleeping beast. And somewhere in orbit, the first human defense satellite shifted its massive cannon toward the stars. Then, a single coded message left Earth's orbit, encrypted beyond any alien system's reach. It read only 3 words: "The time's come." The war had been declared, and across the galaxy, fleets of every major race began to move. Spaceports burned with activity, giant ships launched from hangars, and soldiers marched beneath banners of their empires. Billions watched the news with excitement. To them, Earth was just one small world. Many believed the war would last only days. The Galactic Council promised a quick victory. But as days passed, something unexpected happened. Earth remained silent. No messages, no transmissions, no movements. The human world looked calm, almost asleep. The Council's spies grew restless. "Why aren't they responding?" asked General Zyrith, slamming a clawed hand on the table. "Where are their fleets? Why do they just wait?" But no one had an answer. Even the Council's most advanced probes couldn't get clear data. Every time they sent a drone near Earth's orbit, it vanished without a trace. Some thought it was system failure, others whispered that Earth had developed new defense technology. Yet the Council refused to believe such a thing was possible. They continued to mock humanity. "Maybe their courage failed them," laughed Chancellor Vale. "Humans talk of bravery but hide behind silence." Still, something about that silence unsettled him. On the other side of the galaxy, in the deep blue glow of Earth's command center, Admiral Kale Rian stood quietly. Around him, holograms of alien fleets glimmered like red stars. Officers moved quickly, whispering updates. But Kale didn't speak. He simply watched. The world outside was calm, children played, cities ran normally, skies clear. To the rest of the galaxy, Earth appeared peaceful and unprepared. But beneath its surface, something massive was happening. In the depths of the Pacific Ocean, a hidden structure began to rise. Water boiled around it as giant steel pillars broke the surface. It was the size of a mountain, covered in black metal and red glowing lines that pulsed like a heartbeat. Fishermen watching from far away saw the waves crash for miles and ran, terrified. "Sir," said a voice behind Kale, "the Pacific facility has awakened. The tower is active." Kale turned slightly. "Good," he said. "Activate secondary protocols. Keep the skies clear. Let them think we are still asleep." While the Council's fleets gathered near the Sol border, alien scientists studied the few signals that escaped Earth. The data confused them, energy readings so high they couldn't be from normal human tech. "Impossible," one of them said. "If these readings are true, Earth's reactors have surpassed all Council standards." "Nonsense," replied another. "They're faking it. It's human propaganda." But the readings continued. Something under the planet's oceans, deserts, and poles was drawing massive amounts of energy, building toward something unknown. 3 Council scout ships were sent toward the moon to confirm the truth. Their commanders joked that they'd return with human flags as trophies. But when they reached lunar orbit, their laughter died. "Command, this is Scout 4, one of them reported nervously. "We're detecting structures on the moon. Massive ones. They're not new, they've been here for decades, maybe centuries." The signal cracked with static, then silence. The other 2 ships tried to send rescue drones, but those vanished too. The last message received was a whisper through the static: "Something's moving in the shadows." Then nothing. The council lost all contact. Days turned into weeks. Still, Earth made no public move. Alien media began mocking the humans again. The Terrans have gone quiet, one news anchor laughed. Maybe they realized how hopeless their fight is. But behind their jokes was growing unease. Reports came of strange lights seen near Jupiter. The Andari fleets in the region went missing. When scouts were sent, they found only debris, ships torn apart with precision, not explosions. Who could do this? Asked a council officer. No known weapon can cut ships like that. In the secret chambers of the council, fear started to creep in. Meanwhile, inside the Earth Defense Corps, Kale met with his top generals. The council believes we're silent because we're afraid, said General Harlow, his voice deep and steady. Should we respond? Kale shook his head. Not yet. Let them think we're hiding. Let them get close. The more they underestimate us, the faster this ends. He looked at a massive digital map showing red lights approaching the solar system. We only strike once, he said. When we do, it must be final. His tone was cold but calm. The officers nodded. Everyone in that room knew what was coming, but none of them spoke of fear. They had prepared for this war for decades. Humanity had not wasted its peace. It had built weapons, defenses, and technologies no one else understood. That night, as the sun set over the Pacific, the ocean tower rose higher, now fully above the waves. It looked like a fortress of black steel, taller than mountains. From its top, beams of light reached the clouds, scanning the sky. The tower began transmitting coded signals across the planet. Hidden bases in Antarctica, the Sahara, and Mars responded instantly. All systems linked, reported a female voice through Kale's comm. The network is awake. Kale watched the data flow on his display. Begin energy synchronization, he said. And open the vaults. Deep underground, massive steel doors began to move. Behind them were machines built in silence for generations. Orbital cannons, autonomous fleets, and something else, something older. The humans called them the Titans of Soul. No one alive had seen them in use. They were ancient war machines built in secret after the first contact wars, hidden when the Council forced Earth to disarm. Now, after centuries, they were being reactivated. Engineers cried as the old systems came to life again, glowing with power. We've waited for this, whispered one of them. High above Earth, the night sky shimmered with faint red lines that only the most advanced telescopes could see. The planet was wrapping itself in an invisible defense grid. Satellites turned, aligning in perfect patterns. The stars looked normal to the naked eye, but for anyone who scanned the system, it appeared like a trap, a quiet, waiting predator. Kale stood by the command window, staring into the endless dark. They're almost here, said his aide. Fleet 1 will reach Mars in 2 days. Kale nodded slowly. Let them come. Let them see what our silence means. He closed his eyes for a moment and remembered the day Earth was mocked at the Council, how the aliens had laughed at humanity's weakness. He smiled faintly now. Silence is not fear, he whispered. It's the sound before thunder. Far beyond Earth's orbit, in the black emptiness of space, the first alien fleet entered the solar system. Their sensors scanned for human resistance. They found nothing. Empty skies. No signals. No movement. Their commanders laughed. So this is Earth's defense? Silence. But in that silence, something was listening. Deep below Earth's surface, ancient engines roared awake. And from the ocean tower, a single red light blinked once, sending a hidden message through the dark. Phase 2, ready. The alien fleets entered the solar system with confidence. Thousands of ships filled the void between Mars and Jupiter, their engines glowing like burning stars. Commanders across different species sent messages of victory, mocking Earth's silence. They're hiding, said Admiral Torvek of the Draven fleet. Their defenses are weak. We will strike first and end this quickly. But something about the empty darkness around Earth felt wrong. The closer they came to the inner planets, the more their scanners began to fail. Navigation systems flickered, communications broke for seconds at a time, and strange readings appeared on their screens, massive, slow energy pulses coming from beneath Earth's surface. The scientists on board tried to explain it as natural planetary interference, but none could hide the fear in their eyes. For the first time, the Council fleets were uncertain. Meanwhile, on Earth, inside a massive underground facility beneath Antarctica, the sound of metal echoed like thunder. Great chambers that had been sealed for centuries began to open. Steam hissed as enormous machines awakened. Red lights glowed in the dark like the eyes of giants. Engineers and officers stood in awe as the floor trembled. "Vault 7 is active," shouted one of them. "Power levels stable." Admiral Cale Rian walked through the control deck, his eyes fixed on the growing readings. "How many Titans are ready?" he asked. "2 confirmed, Admiral," replied General Harlow. "The third is still charging, but the core is stable." Cale nodded slowly. "Then wake them fully. The galaxy wanted war, they'll have it." The humans around him didn't cheer. They just moved faster, silent and focused. They all knew what these machines meant, the beginning of the end. Far above, satellites continued to realign themselves, forming a perfect defense grid around Earth. Invisible energy waves rippled through space, distorting any alien scan that tried to penetrate it. To the approaching fleets, Earth looked quiet and weak, but inside that quietness lay power greater than anything the galaxy had ever seen. The sleeping giants, as humans secretly called them, were built during the first age of expansion. They were massive warships buried across the planet and hidden beneath oceans and ice. They were powered by quantum cores capable of bending gravity itself. Only a few in the galaxy even knew they existed, and those who did had been silenced long ago. At dawn, one of these titans began to rise. Beneath the frozen ice of Antarctica, a crack stretched for hundreds of miles as the ground shook violently. Ice split open, and boiling steam burst into the sky. Slowly, a colossal metallic shape emerged from the depths. Its hull shone black and silver, covered in strange symbols that glowed red. It was the Leviathan, Earth's first Titan-class warship. As it lifted into the air, snowstorms swirled around it. The clouds turned red with reflected light from its engines. The people watching from distant observation towers could not speak. It was like watching a mountain take flight. "Leviathan fully active," reported an officer through the comm systems responding, "weapons charging." Cale stood before a holographic projection of the ship. His voice was calm but carried weight. "Send the launch command," he said. Moments later, across every human base, alarms sounded. Massive doors hidden under oceans and deserts opened. The Titans began to move. Leviathan was followed by Goliath, and then by Prometheus, rising like ancient gods returning to life. As they rose, the entire planet seemed to breathe with them. Cities trembled as energy lines connected from the surface to the orbiting defense grid. "All Titans report operational," said General Harlow, unable to hide a slight tremor in his voice. "Awaiting command." Cale looked at the stars through the reinforced glass of the command tower. The alien fleets were already near Mars. "Then it's time," he said quietly. "Prepare Phase 3. Power the singularity cannons." In the cold of space, alien sensors finally detected movement from Earth. Massive energy readings spiked so high that some scanners overloaded. "What is that?" shouted one of the fleet commanders. "Are they launching ships?" But before anyone could respond, the stars behind Earth dimmed. A shadow spread across space as something enormous rose from the planet's surface. For the first time, the aliens saw the Leviathan. It was beyond comprehension, so large that smaller ships looked like dust beside it. Its hull absorbed light, its energy fields distorted space, and a strange hum filled the void. The Draven commander froze. "That's not possible." Back on the Council's main ship, panic spread. "We must retreat," yelled one admiral. "They've awakened something ancient." But others refused. "It's just one ship. We outnumber them 100 to 1. They launched a full barrage of plasma fire toward Earth. The void lit up with weapons, streaks of light racing across millions of kilometers. For a few seconds, the Council fleets believed they had the advantage. But then, something unbelievable happened. Every single plasma bolt stopped in midspace, frozen, suspended as if time itself had broken. The weapons hung there, glowing faintly, then vanished into nothing. The Leviathan's shields had absorbed them all. Kale watched the energy readings on his display. Leviathan defense grid stable, said an officer. Enemy fire ineffective. Kale gave a single nod. Then it begins. Return fire. In an instant, Leviathan's forward cannons ignited. A beam of pure white energy shot through the darkness, striking the lead Council ship. It didn't explode, it simply vanished, erased from existence. The energy tore through the next 5 ships before dissipating into a trail of fading light. Silence filled the alien comms. Then, chaos. They destroyed an entire fleet with one shot, screamed a voice. It's not a ship, it's a planet killer. The aliens tried to retreat, but the Leviathan moved faster than anything they had seen. Smaller human ships emerged from hidden jump gates near the asteroid belt, cutting off escape routes. The trap was complete. The humans had waited for this. Every move had been planned for years. Target all active fleets, ordered Kale. No survivors. His tone was calm, emotionless. The Council's invasion had become its own destruction. As the battle raged, Kale turned away from the main screen and walked to a private console. A single message blinked on it, Second Titan online. Awaiting orders. Kale smiled slightly. Launch Goliath, he said. Let them know Earth never sleeps. Moments later, another giant rose from the Sahara, golden light bursting across the sky. The Second Titan's engines roared like thunder. In space, the aliens watched in terror as 2 human warships the size of moons aligned side by side. What kind of monsters are these humans? Whispered one of them before the signal went dark. Far away, in the Galactic Council's chamber, news of the battle reached the Chancellor. He stood frozen as reports played before him. Entire fleets gone, said an aide. Earth's weapons, beyond understanding. For the first time, Vale felt true fear. He looked at the hologram of Earth glowing in the center of the hall and whispered, "What have they done?" Back on Earth, Kale stared at the stars. The first strike had only just begun. Humanity's giants had awakened, and the silence of Earth was finally broken. The war had truly started, and for the galaxy, it was already too late. Space burned. The Council's grand fleets, ships from 100 worlds, were now scattered across the solar system, their formation broken and their pride shattered. The human Leviathan drifted through the dark like a god of war, silent and cold, its black hull reflecting nothing, its engines pulsing with low crimson light. The first shot had erased an entire fleet. Now the rest of the galaxy was watching, terrified. From the observation deck of the Leviathan, Admiral Kale Rian stood still, his hands behind his back. Through the glass, he could see debris floating in the void, fragments of what had once been thousands of alien ships. But Kale showed no emotion. His face was calm, almost sorrowful. "They forced this war," he said quietly. "Now they'll see its cost." His officers stood behind him, waiting for orders. At the same time, the Council fleets tried to regroup. Admiral Torvek of the Draven Empire shouted commands over failing comms. "Form a defensive line. Target that thing's engines. We must cripple it." But even as he spoke, a new sensor alarm flashed. Something else was emerging from the shadows of Earth's orbit. Another Titan, Goliath, moved forward, its massive body illuminated by flashes of lightning from its magnetic field. Torvek's crew stared in horror as 2 human warships, each the size of moons, aligned side by side. How can they build something like that?" whispered one of his lieutenants. "It's not technology, it's madness." The Leviathan's energy fields rippled again. "Targeting enemy flagship," reported Commander Harlow. "Range locked." Kale's voice was steady. Fire. The space between them and the alien fleet erupted in blinding light. The shot was silent, yet it carried power enough to tear through thousands of kilometers of vacuum. The beam hit the Draven flagship and split it apart instantly. The explosion that followed created a shockwave that knocked smaller ships off course. Fragments spun through space like falling stars. Within seconds, what had been a proud armada was reduced to wreckage. Across alien communication networks, panic spread. They destroyed Fleet 1. The humans destroyed Fleet 1. Messages filled every frequency. Retreat to the Mars perimeter. Request backup. Their weapons can't be blocked. The Council command stations received these desperate calls but could offer no help. Their fastest reinforcements were weeks away. And yet, even if they arrived, would they make any difference? Back on the Leviathan, Kale listened to the screams of the alien channels with a hard, distant expression. Cut off all transmissions, he said. No mercy calls. We end this cleanly. His officers obeyed in silence. Kale turned to his tactical advisor. Status of Goliath? Fully charged, Admiral, the man replied. Their main fleet is falling back toward Jupiter. Kale nodded once. Then follow them. Push them into the gas field and finish it. The Goliath's engines roared to life. Clouds of energy gathered around its hull as it accelerated. Within minutes, it reached the alien retreating fleets. They tried to scatter, but the Titan's gravitational pulse weapon activated. The very space around them bent. Smaller ships were pulled off course and crushed under invisible pressure. Then, from Goliath's front, a series of bright flashes streaked through the dark, rail projectiles moving at near light speed. The alien ships shattered like glass. The void became a graveyard. At the Galactic Council's capital, the main hall was filled with shouting. We underestimated them, yelled one delegate. They've been hiding technology from us for centuries. It's impossible, another argued. No single world could match the combined fleets of the Council. But the data didn't lie. Every transmission from the solar front carried the same message: humanity was winning. The Chancellor slammed his claws against the table. Then we send everything, he ordered. Every remaining fleet, every weapon. Earth must be destroyed before they spread further. Orders were sent across the galaxy, but deep down, even Vale knew the truth. The Council's age of dominance was ending. In the meantime, Earth's skies remained peaceful. Civilians watched live feeds of the battle projected across city towers. There was fear but also pride. For generations, humans had been treated as a minor race, mocked and ignored. Now, the whole galaxy saw their true power. In the command tower, Kale received an encrypted transmission from Earth Command. Admiral, global morale is at maximum. The world stands with you. He allowed himself a faint smile. Good. Let them know. The stars are no longer out of our reach. Hours later, the Council fleets made one final desperate push. Massive dreadnoughts equipped with antimatter cannons formed a defensive ring around Jupiter's orbit. All ships, concentrate fire on the Leviathan, shouted Admiral Torvik, his voice trembling. Beams of energy, missiles, and plasma bolts filled the void, creating a storm of destruction. But as before, none of it reached the human ships. The Leviathan's shields shimmered faintly, absorbing everything. Their attacks are nothing, said Harlow. Their power means nothing to us. Kale looked at the incoming waves of enemy ships. Then let's end their illusion. The Leviathan's main core began to spin. Lights across its surface brightened until it looked like a small star. Energy built up inside its weapon systems. Singularity cannon ready, reported an officer. On your command. Kale's eyes narrowed. Fire. A beam of condensed energy erupted, bending space itself. For a moment, everything was silent, then an explosion brighter than any sun tore through the enemy line. Jupiter's atmosphere rippled from the shockwave. Entire fleets vanished in an instant. The few surviving ships were thrown thousands of kilometers away. The sensor screens went blank, there was nothing left to detect. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the human officers hesitated, staring at the aftermath. Kale broke the silence with a simple order. Begin cleanup operations. No transmissions in or out. Let them wonder what happened here. From that day, rumors spread across the galaxy. Survivors from the Council's destroyed fleets whispered of the black ships of Earth and the Sunkillers. Some said humanity had made a pact with death itself. Others claimed Earth had discovered ancient forbidden technology. No one truly knew the truth. Back on Earth, Kale stood before a massive window, looking out over the planet's blue surface. Phase 3 complete, Harlow said beside him. The Council's primary fleets are gone. Kale didn't respond immediately. His gaze was distant. They won't stop, he finally said. They'll send everything they have left. And when they do, we'll show them what waiting centuries for war really means. As he turned away, the Leviathan's engines hummed quietly. In the far reaches of the galaxy, countless alien worlds trembled as new orders reached them. The Council's last and greatest armada was assembling, determined to crush humanity once and for all. But Earth was already preparing. Deep in its oceans and deserts, more titans were waking. And Admiral Kale Rian, the man who had once stood calm in the face of the Council's arrogance, was ready to finish what they had started. The silence of Earth had ended. Now came the storm. The galaxy had gone silent. After the destruction of the Council's main fleets near Jupiter, every world that once mocked humanity now whispered its name in fear. Trade routes stopped. Diplomatic channels went dead. Entire sectors turned off their beacons, hoping Earth wouldn't notice them. Yet, deep beneath the clouds of Earth, in vast hangars buried under oceans and mountains, humanity was far from finished. They were building something greater. The silence wasn't peace, it was preparation. Admiral Kale Rian stood inside the Leviathan's command core, surrounded by holographic maps of the galaxy. The Council's remaining forces were gathering in one place, a fortress world called Draction Prime, protected by 10 rings of orbital weapons and fleets numbering in the millions. So, they want to make their final stand, Kale said quietly. His voice carried calm certainty. Good. Then that's where we'll end this. Commander Harlow looked up. Admiral, our shipyards report that the Silent Armada is ready. Kale turned, eyes glinting in the low light. Then it's time. Far beneath the Atlantic Ocean, a city-sized hangar door opened slowly, flooding the water with brilliant white light. From its depths, something enormous began to rise. It was not just a ship, it was an entire floating continent of steel and energy, its hull engraved with the emblem of Earth Command. The ship's name glowed across its side, the Behemoth. Around the world, similar titans emerged from hidden bases, Atlas, Nemesis, Odin, and Seraph. Each one dwarfed anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Silent Armada was born, 8 Leviathans, each armed with weapons designed never to be revealed, until now. As they rose through the sky, the people of Earth watched in awe. Cities stopped, transmissions froze, and billions looked upward as the sky itself filled with these monsters of war. Some wept with pride. Others stood silent, hearts pounding. Humanity had hidden these ships for generations, built in secret, prepared in shadows, waiting for this very war. Admiral Kale's voice echoed through every broadcast across Earth. For centuries, they called us weak. They took our colonies, destroyed our ships, and laughed at our silence. But now, they will hear our answer. The crowd roared, the sound echoing even through the void of space as the Silent Armada broke orbit and headed toward the Council's stronghold. Meanwhile, in the grand chambers of the Galactic Council, chaos ruled. Reports flooded in, 8 new human warships detected. Size and power readings are beyond known limits. Chancellor Vale slammed his claws against the console. How is that possible? We destroyed their outer colonies. We crippled their industries. An aide responded, trembling. It seems they've been preparing in secret for centuries. Their power is unprecedented. Vale's eyes glowed with fear and rage. Then summon every fleet. Every world that owes the Council must send its warships. This time, humanity ends. Across the stars, countless ships began moving toward Draxion Prime, forming the largest armada ever assembled. Yet, unknown to them, Earth's fleet was already on the way, moving through the void silently, using cloaking fields that bent light and distorted space. Inside the Leviathan, Kale watched the stars stretch into thin lines as the fleet moved at warp. His officers were tense but determined. ETA to Draxion Prime, 12 hours, reported Harlow. Kale nodded. No transmissions. No warnings. We strike first. He looked at the holographic image of Draxion Prime, a planet wrapped in defense grids, surrounded by ring stations bristling with guns. They think their walls will save them, Kale said softly. But they built those walls too late. As the fleet approached the Draxion system, the first of the Council scouts picked up faint readings. Sir. Multiple energy signatures approaching from the outer belt, cried an alien technician. Identify, shouted Admiral Torvek, now leading the Council's final defense. The technician hesitated. I can't. They're enormous. And, his voice broke as the screens filled with the sight of 8 black shapes emerging from the darkness. The Leviathan led them, followed by Behemoth, Nemesis, and the rest. By the stars, whispered Torvek. What are they? Then, without a word, the silent armada activated their engines. The space around them twisted violently, and within seconds, they were inside the enemy's perimeter. They warped through the defenses, yelled a Council commander. It's impossible. No ship can. But before he could finish, the Behemoth opened fire. Its weapon didn't fire light or plasma. It released a silent wave, invisible but unstoppable. Every ship in its path disintegrated into dust, their matter torn apart at the molecular level. Seconds later, Nemesis followed, firing a beam so hot that the nearest planet's surface melted from the reflected energy. The void became chaos. Admiral Kale stood calm amid the destruction. Target Draxion Prime's orbital rings. No survivors. One by one, the rings exploded as Earth's weapons tore through them. Council ships tried to retaliate, but their shots never reached. The silent armada's shields absorbed everything, bending even gravity itself. In the Council chamber, panic turned to despair. We can't hold them, screamed one general. They're everywhere. Vale stared at the screen, his mind breaking. This is the end. But for Kale, this was only justice. As the last ring fell, he opened a channel to the Council's command. His voice was steady, cold, and final. You declared war. You demanded our silence. Now you'll hear what silence sounds like. With that, the Leviathan's core flared to life. The main weapon charged, and in one blinding flash, Draxion Prime ceased to exist. The planet was gone, reduced to vapor and dust, its remains forming a glowing nebula that would mark the grave of the Council forever. When the light faded, only Earth's ships remained. The fleet drifted quietly through the aftermath, their black hulls reflecting the ghostly glow of the destroyed world. Harlow broke the silence. Admiral, it's over. Kale looked at the empty space before them. No, he said quietly. It's not over. They'll come again. There are always others watching. Let them see this and remember. Humanity doesn't bow. Humanity waits. And when we rise, the stars tremble. The silent armada turned and began the long journey home. Behind them, the ashes of the Council floated across the void, a reminder that Earth, once silent and ignored, had been waiting for this moment all along. The galaxy would never forget the day the humans came, not as diplomats, not as victims, but as conquerors wrapped in silence and fire. The destruction of Draxion Prime echoed across the stars like a nightmare. For centuries, the Galactic Council had been the symbol of power and control, ruling every system through fear. But now their capital world was gone, erased from existence by the humans they once called weak. Every race in the galaxy watched in silence as the ashes of the Council drifted through the void. Some celebrated in secret, others hid their ships, fearing Earth would come for them next. The galaxy had changed overnight. And in the middle of that silence, the humans did not boast, did not broadcast their victory, they simply vanished. Their fleets disappeared into the black, leaving only rumors and dread behind. On the far side of the Orion Arm, Admiral Kale Rian stood in the command chamber of the Leviathan, staring at the holographic projection of the stars. Around him, the officers worked quietly, their faces pale under the soft blue light. All communication requests from alien worlds remain unanswered, Admiral, Commander Harlow reported. They want peace talks, or surrender. Kale didn't turn. His voice was calm but distant. Let them wait. The galaxy has lived too long without fear. Let them learn what waiting feels like. He walked toward the viewing window, looking out into the endless black. They think this is over. But this isn't victory, it's the beginning of balance. The Behemoth and Nemesis, the other Leviathans of the Silent Armada, had returned to orbit around Mars. There, under strict silence, Earth Command prepared something even larger, a structure hidden in the shadow of the planet. Engineers called it Project Eclipse. Rumor said it was a fortress so vast it could cloak entire fleets within it, a moving world designed to protect Earth forever. But few knew its real purpose. Kale did. And he knew it would soon be needed. Because something strange was happening across the galaxy. The Council was gone, but not all of its generals had died. In the outer systems, remnants of the Council's armies were regrouping. One of them was Admiral Torvek, the same commander who had once led the first attack on Earth. He had survived the fall of Draxion Prime and escaped with a small fleet. Now he had gathered others, those who hated humanity enough to fight again. They called themselves the Purity Legion. Their message spread like poison: the humans must burn before they rule us all. In a hidden asteroid fortress, Torvek stood before his gathered captains. His once proud armor was scarred, his voice hoarse but burning with fury. The Council is gone because they were arrogant and blind, he growled. But I have seen the humans' true strength. They are monsters hiding behind silence. We cannot match them alone, but we can strike where they least expect it. A holographic map appeared above the table. It showed the solar system, with Earth glowing red at the center. They think the war is over, Torvek said. But we will bring it back to them. Let's make their people know what fear feels like. Back on Earth, Kale already suspected this. His intelligence division had intercepted strange transmissions in the outer sectors. Multiple fleets regrouping in the Larnix Nebula, reported Harlow. We believe Torvek survived. Kale's expression hardened. He won't stop until he's dead. Prepare a counter-scout. I want to know where he's hiding. A silence followed, then he added, no full response yet. If he's trying to draw us out, we'll make him wait. Weeks passed. Across the galaxy, alien worlds that once served the Council were now turning to Earth for guidance. Human diplomats arrived in quiet missions, not as conquerors, but as watchers. They offered peace, trade, and alliances. Some accepted, others refused, but all feared. Humanity had become the silent center of power. And yet, Kale knew that silence was fragile. One night aboard the Leviathan, Kale stood alone, watching old transmissions, footage from before the war, when humans still begged for Council protection. He remembered those days well, the humiliation, the orders, the forced disarmament treaties. Now the same species that had treated them as children feared to speak their name. But there was no joy in Kale's eyes. Power always breeds fear, he whispered. And fear always breeds war. Suddenly, the alarm lights turned red. Admiral! Multiple hyperspace ruptures detected near Saturn's orbit, shouted Harlow. Kale turned sharply. On screen, the image appeared, a swarm of ships emerging from the void, their hulls painted in black and silver. Torvek's fleet. Thousands strong. They've come for us, Harlow said. Kale's eyes narrowed. No. They've come for vengeance. The enemy fleet didn't target the Leviathan. Instead, they launched a barrage straight toward Earth. Torvek's voice crackled over open comms, his tone filled with hate. For Draxion Prime. For the fallen worlds. Let humanity burn. Missiles and plasma streaked toward the planet's blue glow. But before they could hit, Earth's defense systems came alive. Dozens of orbital platforms uncloaked, firing energy beams that sliced through the darkness. The Behemoth and Nemesis emerged from Mars' shadow, their cannons flaring to life. The first wave of the Purity Legion was annihilated within seconds. Yet Torvek's forces kept coming, wave after wave. "Admiral, they're using decoys," cried Harlow. "Secondary fleet inbound from the opposite side." Kale looked at the tactical display. Another swarm was approaching from the far side of the moon. "They're trying to split us," he said coldly. "They learned." He gave the order. "All ships, hold formation. Let them come closer." The enemy fleet advanced, eager to break through. Then, at Kale's signal, the Leviathan activated its new weapon. A silent pulse spread outward from its core, invisible to the eye but devastating in effect. Every enemy ship within range froze. Their systems shut down, their engines died. In less than 10 seconds, an entire fleet was left drifting, powerless. Kale's voice was calm. "Now, finish them." Behemoth fired. Nemesis followed. The stars lit up with destruction. In minutes, the sky above Earth became a graveyard once more. When it was over, Torvek's ship was the only one left. Kale opened a direct channel. The alien admiral appeared on screen, his face twisted with fury. "You think this is victory, human?" he spat. "The galaxy will never serve you." Kale looked at him with cold eyes. "We don't want them to serve us. We just want them to remember us." And with that, the Leviathan's main cannon fired, ending Torvek and his fleet in a blinding flash. The silence returned. Earth had survived again, but Kale knew the truth. It was only the beginning. The galaxy now feared humanity, but fear had a way of turning into hatred. Somewhere, beyond the edge of known space, new powers were watching, studying, waiting for their turn. As Kale stared into the endless dark, he whispered to himself, "They think we are monsters, but they haven't seen what comes after monsters." The Leviathan turned slowly, its engines humming like thunder as it descended toward Earth. The silent armada was victorious, but the shadows of fear were spreading, and the real war was yet to come. The galaxy was quiet again, but it was not peace, it was the calm that comes before a greater storm. After the fall of the Purity Legion, humanity stood unchallenged. No empire dared to speak against Earth. No fleet entered human territory. The stars themselves seemed to watch in silence, afraid to disturb the sleeping giant that was Earth. But Admiral Kale Rian knew better. The silence of the galaxy was not surrender, it was the sound of fear, and fear never lasts forever. On the command deck of the Leviathan, Kale stared at a holographic star map. Strange signals had begun to appear beyond the edge of known space, faint but constant. "Unknown energy signatures," Commander Harlow reported. "Not Council. Not Legion. Something else." Kale's eyes narrowed. "Track them. They're watching us." Weeks passed, and the signals grew stronger. Human probes sent beyond the galactic rim vanished without a trace. Entire exploration fleets went silent. Then, one night, deep in the dark space between galaxies, a listening post picked up a single transmission. It was not a language known to any database. It was a sound, a deep, echoing hum that seemed to vibrate through the very fabric of space. When Kale heard the recording, he felt something he hadn't felt in years: unease. "It's not a weapon," Harlow said, confused. "It's a signal. Maybe a warning." Kale stared into the dark hologram. "Or maybe it's a call." Soon after, strange events began across the galaxy. Planets that had been neutral started to vanish. Mining colonies disappeared without distress calls. Ships found entire systems empty. No life, no debris, just silence. At first, they blamed the humans. Earth has new weapons, whispered frightened worlds. They're cleansing systems in secret. But Earth denied it. Kale knew these were not human acts. Something else was moving among the stars. Something older. Then came the first encounter. A patrol fleet near the Vega system reported seeing shadows moving through hyperspace. Before they could describe more, their transmission ended. When a rescue team arrived, all they found was dust and silence. The ships were gone, melted like wax. Kale gathered his commanders. "We are not alone anymore," he said. "Something has come through." He paused, looking around the table. "And it's not from this galaxy." The following days were filled with preparation. Earth Command activated Project Eclipse, the massive fortress hidden in Mars' shadow. The silent armada assembled once again, their hulls glowing under the light of the rising sun. Billions watched as the Titans took flight. News broadcasts across human space spoke of the return of Earth's guardians. Kale gave only one order: no diplomacy. No hesitation. "Whatever this is, we face it head-on." They found the enemy near the edge of the Andromeda Rift. It wasn't a fleet, it was a storm. Massive structures drifted through the void, alive with pulsating energy. They were not made of metal but something darker, shifting and alive. Kale watched from the Leviathan's bridge as the shadows moved like predators through the void. "Are they ships?" Harlow asked quietly. "I don't think so," Kale answered. "They're something else." The scanners flickered wildly, unable to lock onto them. Every attempt to communicate failed. Then, without warning, the shadow forms attacked. A beam of pure void energy struck the behemoth, tearing through its shields like paper. The massive ship shook violently, alarms blaring. "Shields down to 60%, shouted an officer. "Return fire," Kale commanded. The Leviathan unleashed its cannons, beams of light slicing through the darkness, but the enemy absorbed the blasts, their forms splitting and reforming. "They're adapting," said Harlow. "Every time we hit them, they change." Kale clenched his fists. "Then we change faster." The battle raged for hours. One by one, the human warships fought back with everything they had: plasma storms, gravity torpedoes, and singularity weapons. Space became a burning field of light and shadows. But the enemy kept coming, endless and relentless. Kale knew they were losing. "Retreat to Eclipse," he ordered finally. "We can't fight them in open space." The silent armada began to fall back, covering one another as they retreated toward Mars' orbit. When they reached Project Eclipse, the true scale of Earth's hidden weapon was revealed. The fortress unfolded like a mechanical flower, revealing a superstructure larger than any planet. Its surface pulsed with white energy. Kale stood before the command core and placed his hand on the control panel. "Activate the core," he said. "Eclipse protocol. Final defense." Harlow hesitated. "Admiral, if we do this, we risk burning the entire system." Kale's voice was calm. "Then let it burn. We can rebuild Earth. We can't rebuild existence." As the Shadow Fleet approached, the Eclipse began to glow. Massive rings of energy spun faster and faster, pulling light itself inward. The shadow creatures hesitated, as if sensing danger. Kale watched them on the screen. "They're not alive," he said softly. "They're feeding on energy, on us." Then he gave the final command: "Fire the Eclipse." A beam of pure white light erupted from Mars' orbit, expanding outward like a sun being born. It engulfed everything: the shadows, the debris, even space itself seemed to bend under its power. The dark entities screamed without sound, their forms disintegrating into nothing. For a moment, the stars themselves vanished. Then, slowly, light returned. The battlefield was empty. The Shadow Fleet was gone. But so was most of the Eclipse. The fortress had burned itself out. Silence filled the command deck. "We did it," Harlow whispered. Kale looked out the window, his eyes distant. No, he said softly. We survived. That's not the same thing. He knew what he had seen, something far beyond alien, something that came not to conquer but to cleanse. It wasn't war, it was warning. As he looked at the fading light of the eclipse, he felt a strange certainty. The shadows weren't destroyed. They had only retreated. Weeks later, reports came from deep space, unknown signals again, faint but growing. Kale stood before the stars once more, his reflection in the glass. The council feared us, he said quietly. But whatever comes next, it won't fear anyone. He turned toward Harlow. Prepare the armada. We rebuild, and we wait. As the Leviathan descended back toward Earth, the sky glowed red from the last traces of the eclipse's light. Humanity had faced the Council, the Legion, and the Shadows, and survived them all. But Kale knew the truth written in every soldier's eyes. The galaxy had changed forever, and now, something beyond the stars was watching. The war that began with pride had become something far greater, a fight for existence itself. And humanity, patient and silent as always, was waiting for the next dawn when the stars would tremble once more. The silence after the eclipse weapon faded was heavier than any explosion. The solar system drifted in the stillness of victory and loss. Mars was scarred, its orbit scattered with the burned remains of Project Eclipse. The titans of the silent armada floated quietly, their engines dim, their hulls cracked from the battle with the shadows. Earth itself was safe, but its skies no longer looked the same. The people below watched the faint glow where the eclipse had burned and wondered if the price of survival had been too high. Humanity had survived everything, the Council, the Purity Legion, and even the things from beyond the stars. But Admiral Kale Rian knew this was only a pause, not an ending. Deep inside the Leviathan's command bridge, he stood silently as the ship drifted toward Earth. Commander Harlow walked beside him, her face pale under the emergency lights. "The scans are clear, Admiral," she said. "No more shadow signals. Whatever they were, they're gone." Kale didn't respond right away. His gaze was fixed on the distant Earth, shining blue and alive against the black void. "Gone," he murmured. "Or waiting." As the Leviathan descended through the atmosphere, billions of humans looked to the sky. The world that had once been ignored by the galaxy was now the center of everything. Kale's return was broadcast across every screen. The crowds filled the streets, cheering, crying, holding banners that read "Earth endures." But Kale did not celebrate. He stood before the people in the massive halls of Earth Command and said the words they didn't expect. "This is not the end of war. This is the beginning of understanding what waits beyond it." The room fell silent. "We believed power would protect us. We were wrong. Power only draws attention. Something found us, something older than every star we've known. We may have defeated it once, but if it returns, we must be ready not as conquerors, but as survivors." Across the galaxy, word of the eclipse's light spread like a legend. Some races called it the Son of Earth. Others whispered that humanity had unlocked forbidden cosmic power. Worlds that once feared Earth now sent envoys, asking for protection. Humanity, once exiled, had become the silent guardian of a trembling galaxy. Yet Kale remained restless. In the dark of night, he often returned to the Leviathan's bridge, standing alone, watching the stars. "They think we saved them," he said once to Harlow, his voice low. "But we only delayed what's coming." Meanwhile, Earth Command began rebuilding Project Eclipse under a new name, Eclipse 2, Horizon. Unlike the first, this version was not a weapon. It was designed as a gate, a way to explore beyond the known galaxy and learn what truly lay in the dark. Scientists and engineers from 100 worlds joined the effort, working under human supervision. The galaxy had changed. Humans were no longer isolated. They were leading. For the first time, peace existed not because of treaties, but because of fear and respect. Yet in the deep of space, strange energy readings began to reappear, weak, scattered, but growing. Kale studied them in silence. "They're rebuilding too," he whispered. "Whatever they were, they're coming back." Months later, Kale was called before the United Council of Earth, A new alliance formed to guide the galaxy under human leadership. The chamber was filled with delegates, both human and alien. "Admiral Rian," said one counselor, "the galaxy sees Earth as its protector now. You brought us peace. Why not rest?" Kale looked at them, his eyes cold and calm. "Because peace built on fear doesn't last. The shadows we faced weren't here to conquer, they were here to cleanse. And if they return, they won't stop at us. They'll burn everything." The council fell silent. "Then what do you suggest?" one alien asked. Kale replied simply, "We go to them first." Those words changed everything. Project Horizon was no longer just an exploration mission. It became a declaration. Humanity would no longer wait for threats to come to them. They would go into the dark, find what waited, and face it head-on. The Silent Armada was reforged. The Leviathan and Behemoth were repaired and upgraded, equipped with new experimental drives capable of bending the edges of reality itself. The fleet was larger than ever. Dozens of human-built ships and others gifted by alien allies who feared the same unseen enemy. When the time came, Kale stood on the Leviathan's bridge once more, the stars reflected in his eyes. "For centuries, Earth waited in silence," he said over the comms. "Now, the silence ends. Let the galaxy know, humanity doesn't hide. Humanity seeks." As the fleet powered up, Earth's sky filled with light. Billions watched as the Titans ascended once more, their engines painting the clouds with fire. The Leviathan took the lead, followed by ships from a dozen worlds. The horizon split open as the new drive activated, forming a glowing rift in space, the doorway to the unknown. For a moment, Kale looked back at Earth, the planet that had endured exile, war, and fear. "We were never meant to be small," he whispered. "We were meant to rise." Then, with a deep rumble, the fleet vanished into the rift. Silence fell once more, but this time it was different. It wasn't the silence of fear or waiting, it was the silence of destiny. Years later, in distant systems, travelers would tell stories of lights appearing in the void, giant ships moving among dead stars, carrying banners of blue and silver. They said those ships came from the world called Earth. Some called them protectors. Others called them warnings. But all agreed on one thing: wherever humanity went, the galaxy trembled. Back on Earth, the night sky still shimmered faintly where the rift had opened. Children looked up and asked their elders, "Will they come back?" The answer was always the same: they never left. They are watching, even now. And in that vast silence of space, beyond the reach of any known star, the Leviathan sailed onward through the endless dark. Kale stood on its bridge, older now, his hair streaked with gray but his eyes as sharp as ever. Before him, the void stretched endlessly, alive with mystery. Harlow stood beside him. "We've gone farther than any human ever dreamed," she said. Kale nodded slowly. "Yes. And still, the horizon moves." He looked out at the dark ahead. "They thought Earth waited because it was afraid. But we were never afraid. We were preparing." Far beyond the edge of the galaxy, sensors picked up faint readings once again, the same dark hum that had started it all. Kale smiled faintly. "There you are," he said softly. "Let's finish what we started." The Leviathan's engines flared, the stars bent, and humanity's greatest ship disappeared into the unknown once more. The galaxy would remember the humans not as conquerors or destroyers, but as the ones who looked into the endless dark and walked forward without fear. Because in the end, Earth had not just survived, it had risen. And somewhere beyond the stars, Admiral Kale Rian and the Silent Armada sailed on, carrying with them the light of a species that refused to bow, refused to die, and refused to stop reaching for the horizon.